As we reflect on the need to exert influence to accomplish personal goals or organizational goals, we should consider that there are three distinct influence strategies. We call these the 3 R's: retribution, reciprocity, and reason. The circumstances at any given time will dictate which of these influence strategies is most appropriate. Tuning your choice of strategy to the particular situation will have significant impact on the outcome. Let's examine these in a little more detail. We begin with retribution. This strategy most closely represents a forcing approach to getting others to do what you want them to do. It may involve coercion or even threats, and frequently intimidation. Most of us are familiar with this influence strategy from our personal lives. It's not uncommon that parents will use retribution as an influence strategy to get the behavior they want from their children. It frequently involves the threat of punishment. Some of the ways that retribution is actually employed are the direct threats that I mentioned previously. You may find that retribution is used in those situations where there is not time to adopt another strategy. In a crisis situation, retribution may be the only way that the leader can exert the influence needed to resolve the crisis. You can imagine that in situations where retribution is used, that it stifles creativity, the ability of others to bring their ideas to the table in creative and potentially valuable ways, but it also, if it becomes a pattern on the part of the leader, then it will create resentment within the organization and can be counterproductive and destructive to the trust that needs to be built between the leader and the followers in the organization. As we think about reciprocity, this approach to influence typically involves negotiation and is a way that leaders can help others achieve what both the leader and the follower desire. It does involve bargaining, an exchange of one thing of value for another, as we would call that a quid pro quo. The leader may choose to reward behaviors that they desire in order to create a feeling of obligation on the part of the follower. Typical ways that reciprocity might be used are reflected here, but usually involve that reciprocal compromise. The leader promises to do something for the follower in return for the desired behavior from the follower. Both of them feel that there is value in that exchange, so the exchange makes sense. One of the difficulties of using this frequently in your leadership style and your approach to influence is that it can create a pattern of behavior, an expectation that all behavior is going to be rewarded in a certain way. This can be counterproductive to the effectiveness of the organization and may limit your effectiveness as a leader as you reach the end of appropriate rewards that you can provide. That precedent can be problematic. Our last influence strategy is that of reason. We use this approach when we want to build consensus between the leader and the follower. As a result, we want to use this to show others that it makes sense to do what we want them to do. It will rely heavily on logic and objectively presenting the facts. And ultimately, what it achieves is good alignment of both personal, organizational, and the leader's goals in such a way that we build trust, confidence, loyalty within the organization. As you might expect, this approach takes time. It takes a significant amount of effort in order to achieve the desired outcomes. However, its chief advantage is that it does build that consensus that leads to the achievement of common goals of the leader and the follower. These then are the 3 R's of influence strategies. Try not to rely solely on one or another, as frequent reliance on one creates a pattern that can create problems in achieving the organizational goals. Learn to adapt and use each of these strategies appropriately.